Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you all. I know we'll have people that continue to trickle in, so hopefully everyone can kind of jump in. We have had, I can't believe we're already up to February. We've had some really great sessions with this group over the course of the year. Today, we wanted to talk about metrics and analytics in the use of managing outside counsel. And so much to say, there's so much there. What we've done today is we've invited a couple partners that work with some of us, have worked in the past, are currently working, maybe future working, to sort of showcase what they do and how they can help their clients drive their objectives in managing outside counsel and external vendors. So I'm really excited. I'm actually just going to kick it right over, Raj, to you. We've got a couple folks from Bodala here today. So Raj, if you want to just go ahead, I would definitely introduce yourself. I'm sure there's people you know and don't know. I am going to hard stop you at 20 after, maybe.
Okay, so we got 18 minutes.
So we'll give you till 23 after. How's that?
That's all right. No, cool. No, I'll give you the 2 minutes back. That's right. All right. Hey, everybody. Nikki, thank you very much. Nikki's not only a leader in the field, but Counter is a good friend of mine in the business and of the profession. So, and Don, thanks. Good to see you. I'm Raj Goyal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bodala. Some of you know us well. Some of you have never heard of us. And more than talking about Bodala per se, just going to talk about this topic of data analytics, what we're seeing out there. I think we've had a very interesting journey. I dare say I don't think there's anyone in sort of who sort of lived the analytics journey more on the front line than Bodala. I'd say in one sense we almost helped coin the term in the industry. When we first started 6 years ago talking about the word analytics, we'd get blank stares, and I'll never forget a gentleman who shall not be named, but is somebody who works at Elevate, but I won't say who because they have tons of people, was like, why would anyone ever care about that? All you need to do is just throw the e-billing data into a Tableau sheet, and that's all that that's all that you have to do. And by the way, I'm sorry, I neglected my colleague, Lori Butler, who's one of our account reps, who's based out of Connecticut, is here as well. So thank you, Lori, for joining. So, we have really, I think, to our credit, and it was very tough days for a long time when people would say, that's interesting, that's cute, that's interesting, that's cute. And then, they'd roll their eyes and walk away and be like, okay, I'm never going to buy that product, because they were like, wait a second, I've got e-billing. I've got what I need. So I think that what our journey has shown us, and we've been happily proven right, although it's not like Bodala is $1 billion company by any means. We're still relatively, small in the sense that, we've got lots of clients. I'm really proud of that. But, there will be a day when we have thousands of clients, and we're certainly not there yet. So in terms of actually how we use data, I would just sort of make 3 opening observations, which would be, and then Nikki, I presume that good Q&A and discussion dialogues preferred. Yeah. So I'd say 3 observations about sort of the role of data, which is, so, and some of you know this very well, some of this it might be new, so forgive me if this is repetitious, which is, I don't think in today's day and age, any unit of your business or corporate enterprise doesn't use data. So what I always say is the CFO's office has all sorts of tools that let the CFO do her job well. So they have invoice payment, but they also have analytics, they have strategics, data tools and so on. And it's sort of interesting that legal has been left to basically handle multi-million-dollar budgets with like a slide rule and a pencil, which is, the digital equivalent is like Word and Excel. And if you think about the e-billing tools, which are great, and many of you know we're now owned by Onnit, which is an ELM solution, but of the 13 ELM vendors, really, truthfully, nothing has substantially changed innovation-wise in 20 years. They're really pushing an invoice and saying, Skadden Arps says you owe me $100,000 in the month of June, and you pop it up and it says approve or reject. And That's good. That's important. But that's an invoice payment tool, and that's it. And in any other industry, we would say that's invoice payment. That's not strategic insights. That's not market intelligence, and so on. So I think, point one, it would just be the need for a stack of tools is still a mountain to climb in legal, but in every other vertical, that's just assumed to be the case. So you have to have a stack. I'd say the second point is something I sort of already alluded to, which is that the need for market intelligence. So the demand is off the charts for us on the following question. Hey, Bodala, I would love to tell my general counsel how we relate to our peers. And so nobody really cares, frankly, if you're PepsiCo, who I don't know if anyone from Pepsi's on. I guess is he related? I guess Yum Brands. Hey, Kevin, which is you don't really give a hoot about what State Farm Insurance does. Now, State Farm Insurance is really, really smart, not just because they're we're proud to partner with them but they're in insurance. They're doing hail wind damage cases in Texas. So why would I care when I'm in a global multinational manufacturing food and beverage company? So I think one thing we just get a lot of is, can you position me in with my peers in terms of how our legal department is performing or faring? And that's why our market intelligence and our benchmarks are really a little bit flying off the shelves. And we're really happy that we've spent many millions of dollars, many gray hairs, many sleepless nights, building this technology, but it works because for the first time you can actually have apples to apples comparison, not just a Excel sheet that does some average of what the rates are. That's not compelling. And then the third point, and then I'll pause, which is I think there's a growing realization, and Nikki, you and I talked about this a bit in LA, on how complex law firm billing models are. So it used to be when we started, when they would be like, oh, what's the big deal? Hey, come on, ops chief of staff person, or come on, it's just a rate card. And you realize, and I think some of you know this, I'm actually married to a partner at a law firm, and there is no such thing as a rate card. There is no such thing as a rate card. If you call my wife a week before the fiscal year of her law firm, shockingly, you'll get 30% off because because it's a cash business. A law firm is no different than a hot dog cart. They are a cash business that have equity owners, and they divvy up the pool after they pay off their expenses. And so I think that what our machine does is really reverse engineer law firm economic billing. And that's why the dirty data issue that all of you face, we're also getting a lot of growth in how we cleanse the data, because there is now, I think, industry realization that, I grew up in a healthcare household. My parents were immigrant physicians. And when my dad did a heart cath, if he did a heart cath in Phoenix or in LA or Wichita, where I grew up, it's all coded the same to CMS. It's absolutely structured the same way. But in the law, we have no operating system. How Skadden invoices in little nuanced ways is different than Kirkland. Kirkland can have their fake partners scam. Some of you may not be aware of this, but they call many of their timekeepers who are 7th to 10th year associates partners, and all of you pay that bill accordingly. And you don't even realize that they're skewing your average rates when they are actually just misleading you on who that timekeeper is. So because the profession has been so unsystematized, is that a word? Because there lacks standards, let's say. It's an unstandardized system. That has all hurt the corporate legal department. And I think now there's a realization that the data, because of big data and because of cloud computing, we can actually reverse engineer that. So those would be my 3 kind of opening observations. Just quickly, I guess a little bit of a quick commercial for those of you who've never heard of us. Bodala, we are the leading data analytics company on spend management. We tell you the should cost. We sit on top of your e-billing tool. Been around about 5 years. We're a multi-million-dollar business. Probably about 40 people. Pre-COVID, we were headquartered in New York. We were purchased by Onnit. We're a division of them last August. And I'll pause there, Nikki. I hope that hit the mark.
That was awesome. Thank you, Raj.
Sure.
Before I ask any questions from the group? I think it would be really helpful to give us some more tactical examples
Yep.
And I know, Raj, you've got a million of them, but just to sort of make it really come to life for the group, because these are folks that are living and breathing.
Living and breathing. Absolutely.
They get it all. So, I mean, you've got a very sophisticated audience.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about how Bodala can come in and what you guys will do with, like, folks like those of us on the call here.
Yeah. Lori, let me ask you to urgently Slack, if you don't have the dirty data slide, Slack Sarah Bacchetti and have her send it to you so that we can show it in the next 8 minutes, please. Thank you. So being very practical, we ingest data from e-billing sources. We're the only tool that can merge data. We can really do a backflip on any piece of legal data anywhere. So for example, at AIG, they have multiple billing systems. We're the lingua franca. We combine all of them. So if you're on Passport, Council Link, Simple Legal on it, Tracker, it doesn't matter to Bodala. We have built hundreds of algorithms in which we can standardize that data. And we literally on the back end of our system have a drop-down menu knowing the import source. For those of you who do not have an e-billing tool, we have pioneered a workflow where we grab your data from the time and billing system of the law firm. That is a really growing area of our business. Now, half our clients don't even have an e-billing system. A lot of high finance, think private equity and asset managers, have never invested in e-billing, but we can grab their data from their law firms and do all their analytics on it, put it into the platform and so on. So we ingest that data and then we give you insights that you can't get elsewhere. So again, to be very direct and specific about it, and let me give you 2 examples. So we work for a large company that had very large spend, around 9-figure spend. They were convinced off their gut instinct and on their spreadsheets that they had 2 AmLaw 5 firms that did the bulk of their work. And they were like, oh, we have really good discounts at both. How many of you think that I have really good discounts? When we peeled back the data, we got rid of the fake partner issues. When we actually standardized things, we cleansed the data. It turned out that the discount structure at firm B was far worse than at firm A. And it was really just hidden. It was under the iceberg. So on the political battle of change management, which all of you are on the front lines of, there was no politics because they loved both firms. They just shifted more work to firm A versus firm B. So that was and as a result, they saved tons and tons of money, and there was no real friction internally. And the data was clear, and those decision makers and the business folks were happy with it. So that was a great example of how data analytics politically can also drive change. I think a second big example is that when we grab the data, we're often, a big objection is to say, well, hey, how do I action this? And so what we've learned is that we have a customer success department that are spend management experts that work closely with our clients. So we don't just give you a piece of software because, hey, you're all busy, what do you do with it? And so we've been down these journeys before. And so, how you set up a quarterly business review, I'm sure some of you do that. I'm sure some of you don't. Could you do a quarterly business review with your law firms that's data driven, that isn't I gotcha and scolding and saying, oh, we're going to be all heavy handed. It's just collaborative and says, here's the metrics we're looking at, Latham and Watkins or Oric or whomever. And we'd like to see improvement on these things. And you have the opportunity, if you think that this is off, tell us, but we're going to be guarding this we're going to be watching this longitudinally. And so, for example, one of our big companies, one of our big clients, that has been a really quiet revolution where they've been managed to now actually get a better relationship with one law firm because they appreciated the data. To be fair, there's another law firm that hated it. And that law firm was like, and our client took that distaste and said, well, if you can't really even work with us on basic metrics to improve, then maybe we really aren't, in the best place to partner with you. So I'll pause there.
Raj, I had 2 questions, somewhat
Sure.
related, somewhat not. One is, have you been able to evaluate the effectiveness of fixed fees using this tool? As that's one area I'm really interested in. And then the other thing is, are you seeing that when clients make this investment, it kind of pays for itself by those kind of situations you described there, where they end up saving money in the long run?
Yeah, thanks, Don. Quickly on fixed fees, we very much know this to be the case, which is you can't really construct a fixed fee without good data. And so we've found that flat fees or AFAs, remember, a law firm will never, ever get off an hourly model. Even if they tell you they're off one, in the back, you know, they're shadow billing. That's not, by the way, a bad thing. It's how they compensate their people. They need to know if Nikki, the associate, billed 1,100 and Don, the associate, billed 1,600. They have to know that. And then if they're billing people do a flat fee outwardly to you, that's a different point. So the shadow billing, when we've analyzed and pulled shadow billing for our companies, our clients on flat fees, we've often found the flat fee didn't quite hit the mark. One little tip is if a law firm's not squealing about price, then that flat fee is probably priced too high, you know, because they always manage a way to sort of get around that. So short point is, Don, we really encourage some deep data analysis before you go down the flat fee journey. Even though some people are on it, we found that it's actually sometimes a little bit, a little more vapor than realized. The second point is on ROI. Appreciate it very much. We average about 3.5x ROI on our fees with our clients. Some clients, of course, have had 20x ROI. But yes, we are a cost saver. And now, of course, part of the problem is you have to spend a little bit of money to save money. So, you know, we're not free, and we don't do gain shares. But, you know, for an innovative legal ops department, or legal department that wants to use data, you know, we're just flatly a very good deal, because we're a software. We're not out here to gouge you like a consultant. A consultant has to take margin on every minute they're working for you. A software company, our bread is buttered in growth. So, you know, we just, as long as we have growth, we're happy to have our margins, but you can make as much money on our software as you want. One caveat to that, which is, you know, we're not the masters, you're the masters. So we always use the shovel dig analogy. We're going to give you the shovel. It's going to be, for, you know, Black Panther fans, it's going to have vibranium in it. We're going to tell you exactly where to dig. It's going to have a laser pointer there, and our customer success team is going to hold that shovel with you. But ultimately, you're the masters, and you're going to have to dig. So, you know, we're just candidly not a fit for a department that doesn't want to action insights. We do have some departments that love just the visibility, but generally that's, you know, we need people who want to take a little bit of action. We're at 2:19 Eastern, so obviously super appreciate the opportunity, but love to take a final question.
Roger, are you willing to, so for folks on the phone, are you willing to let them sort of talk to you, maybe run some sample data, do some pilots, and kind of really get more specific with them? Just on, hey, here's your data set. This is what it would look like. This is how we would work together. Because for me, it's something I definitely want to do.
Yeah, super appreciate it. Absolutely. Roger@bodala.com. And I'll even put my, I know in the world, basically, I know I can't live without my texting. You can even text me there. And so please do ping. We do often do sample data runs. We'd be happy to do it. Obviously, anyone who's a friend of this organization, we'd love to work with. And, you know, we'd be thrilled to do that. So I think, in fact, if I'll I think we're in pilot on one person on this call. I'll keep.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. All right, I didn't want to out you, Diana, but thank you.
Well, I didn't know when to jump in and you know, kind of, you know, say, hey, you know, yes, they do those kinds of things, and we're in the process of one right now. So
awesome. Well, yeah, we're thrilled to be.
I was just going to support you on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Diana. Yeah, and look, when I jump off, yeah, obviously you can have some candid chats. You know, I will say this in closing, which is, I talked to your colleague Sophie from Cummins, who I don't know is on, but I talked to her this morning after the Concero, and she said that one of our clients at Concero came up to her after my knowledge bridge and said, hey, that company actually does what they say they'll do, which I know is not always the case. So we do pride ourselves very much on follow through, and we go the extra mile for our folks. So if you're interested in knowing more, we'd be thrilled, and thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you
right.
so much, Raj.
Take care.
Thanks for last minute joining.
Of course. See you guys.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Hey, and listen, let me just say last thing. You're doing the Lord's work. I've been in this profession like many for 25 years. You're the tip of the spear on change management. You've built an incredible community of professionals and a trade group and everything. So You got a lot of people who are rooting you on, even though I know we're a vendor saying that, but we mean it because the profession needs a lot of reform and you guys are driving it. So thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So Don, you and I can kind of jump in now because Raj, the Bodala folks have dropped. We kind of pivoted a little bit on this meeting for this week and what we want, or this month, I apologize. What we wanted to do is have a couple different folks come in and talk a little bit about how they would and do use metrics and analytics. So in about 7 minutes, we're going to have Sky Analytics jump on and do kind of their 20-minute overview of what they do and how they work. I personally, I mean, this is obviously separate and apart from where I am now. I'm kind of a big fan of Bodala. I've seen a lot of their stuff, and I think what they're doing is something that I couldn't do, even if I was going to spend all my time doing it internally. I really couldn't do it myself. Diana, I'd love, since you're doing a pilot with them, I'd love to get any thoughts or impressions you have out of the gate.
So I've worked with them since the beginning, because one of his co-beginning people was Neil Wolin, who was the GC who hired me into this kind of business
Okay.
many moons ago when he was the GC at the Harvard. So when they started at this company, they worked with some of us to get our ideas and things, and as they were doing their structures and rolling out. So I've been involved with them for many, many years. So I'll put that up front. And so, you know, I have a tendency towards their work and their abilities. They do, they've always come up with things and deliver, and, I've never had a real opportunity until lately to possibly use them. So I asked if they would do a proof of concept. It was no issue. It took more issue on my side of the house to get them to be able to come in and do it. But there was no issue. It was really simple. Just send them the data, and our vendor, our e-billing matter management system is Ascent, Doe Legal Ascent, and they have an alliance with them. So they are very used to sending things. So we just sent off the data. Within a couple of weeks, they had a report. They have been very understanding. I had the first readout was on Monday, and then my computer, I have computer issues, they're gone now, but I was having issues at the beginning of the week, and we had to start it up like 3 times. And, they were willing, they were sitting there, we'll sit here and wait for you. And I'm like, no, after the 3rd time I said, you know what, let's move it till the end of the week or early next week. So I haven't seen the full, but I mean, I haven't seen their full demo. I've seen the results of their work that they do. It is very detailed. It is, it's stuff like you said, Nikki. If I spent all day doing it, it would be my entire life to do what they do, because it's so detailed and it's so specific. And as Raj said, they give you the information. It's your job to do with what you do with that information. Some of the stuff that we did get to briefly talk about was like, well, that's great, but here's the circumstance. That's why it is the way it is. So, and other things was like, wow, thanks for pointing that out. I hadn't realized that was going on. So that's something, we can look into and do things. The one thing, and this is, I think all these tools are pretty much similar in this. To me, it's always after the fact. They can show you what this happened, and using that as a predictor of what's going to happen in the future can help you be a little bit more aware of what to put in your billing guidelines, what to be aware of when looking at invoices. It can help you with that. And I truly believe that in the, bottom of my heart. And I do agree with him. And again, this is just, my focus for being in here. There has to be some standardization. And I was laughing really when he talked about his parents being in the medical, and when, no matter where his dad practices, that there's a code for what his dad does. And that's the code, and that's what you have. And, nobody deviates from that. And I actually, in the very early part of my career, actually worked on the system that developed the system that worked on getting all those codes in place and then being them used throughout the country. the national codes that are available. And I mean, and people had been working on it probably 10 years before I got involved in it. And I was on the, the back end of how to get this to be able to do it electronically, to be able to, I built the IT systems to support it. But I know it's a lot of work, but somebody has to take, and I agree with them. Somebody has to just like bite the bullet and say, okay, we got to do this, folks, as a group. We've got to just and really make the firms do it, just like they made all the doctors' offices. And insurance companies don't accept anything but that. And I will stop talking.
No, that's great. Really helpful. One thing I didn't get to do that I will do with them is drill in a little bit more on their benchmarking sources. Just because I think that's evolved a lot. And I know like some of these companies, they use their current clients. Some of them use clients plus. I know Bodala, I think, used to go out and get like any publicly available information to pull into their data set. So I used to report.
Yeah, I think they're using their data now because they have they have so much data now that it can be more useful. And it is very granular. I mean, they were benchmarking down to pretty much a specific job within a specific practice within a specific area. So, if you're in New York versus Atlanta or Boston or, or if you're in a small town and, whatever, they have that kind of data because now they have enough data that they can statistically make it work and be of some use. But by all means talk to them about that. But that's one thing we did talk about.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great cue for Doug. Hi, Doug. Welcome.
Well timed.
Very well timed. And I'm going to kick it over to and Diana, thank you very much for your comments. I'm going to kick it over to Don. He wants to.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to introduce Doug Ventola with Concilio, and Doug manages the Sky Analytics platform for Concilio, which is a platform where you upload your billing data, and they do a lot of benchmarking and analysis of that e-billing data to present with insights that you can then use to manage your legal department better. So I figured they would be a good addition to our metrics discussion. And just another option for the type of tool you can use. So Doug, we don't have a lot of time, so I don't want to waste a lot of it blabbing, but that's your intro and take it away.
All right, great. Thanks, Don. And thanks, Nikki. Let me share my screen with you all. There we go. All right. I assume you all can see my screen now.
We can.
Okay, excellent. All right, so yeah, in the 20 minutes or so I have, I'll walk through some of the key areas of Sky Analytics that are leveraged by our client base, and focusing on some of the benchmarking and the metrics capabilities, as well as touching a little bit on the diversity tracking and reporting capabilities and how that's benchmarked within the application. Sky itself, just a little bit of background, is fed detailed legal invoice data, typically from a company's e-billing system. Some of our clients, a handful of our clients, actually don't even have e-billing. So it is an application that can work in the absence of an e-billing technology as well, just to put that out there. And the way it works in those situations is typically we'll collect the invoice data directly from your law firms and load that in. So whether it's data coming out of an e-billing system or data coming directly off of a legal invoice, we can feed the application, but it is a platform agnostic tool. I'm going to start with the dashboard app, which gives that proverbial 50,000 foot overview of your legal spend. And I just want to point to a couple of things on this dashboard. So I'm in the live application. I'm in what we call our demo client in Sky, which is based upon some real spend data that we've collected over the years that's been anonymized for demo purposes. So a few things as the dashboard has evolved, one key area is diversity, and introducing that into some of the metrics that you're measuring your business on or measuring your outside counsel on. So I've added in a few charts on the right-hand side of this screen racial diversity by hours billed. So what does that look like across all of your spend or for a particular practice area? We can do it by hours. We can do it by dollars. We can do it by head count. How many of my timekeepers are racially diverse versus white or non-diverse timekeepers? And we can do that same type of charting and reporting for gender, or across all aspects of diversity. So we can have a total diversity profile. So all of that is capable with the application. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm getting a question or feedback. I can't.
Yeah,
quite
can everyone make sure they're on mute, please?
Maybe Stefan, are you able to mute?
Marco, can you mute him, please?
In meinem Ohr habe ich meine Mutter gehört, wie sie geweint hat. Und dann ist mir eingefallen, dass
I would mute him, but I can't.
schnell aufgelegt.
I don't seem to be able to do that. Yep.
Okay.
Auf den Schoß gegangen und
Hey,
habe mich
KJ, can you mute him?
und an meinen Haaren gezogen. Dann ist mein Handy
Apologize, Doug.
ausgegangen.
I'm sorry, say that again, Don.
I apologize.
Oh yeah, no worries. We're all familiar with Zoom and how it goes. I'll try and talk over any background noise, but if there are questions, those can come in as well. I won't spend any more time on the dashboard, but these are the type of metrics, how your matters are being staffed. We can look at it from a diversity perspective. But now if we want to start to get into firm measurement and performance, I'll go into an individual firm profile. So for this demo client, I'm looking at Kirkland & Ellis, which is their largest client. And I can get some metrics on the firm, such as blended rate, partner rate, associate rate. Blended rate is one of those metrics that really, to me, resonates the most when you're looking at a firm, because partner rate by itself, associate rate by itself, they don't tell the whole story, because depending upon the way that the law firm staff their matters, that's going to drive up or down your blended rate. And that's really what your effective rate is. That's what you're paying on average across any work that you are doing for that law firm is performing for you. So in this case here, we have a blended rate of 536, a partner rate of 673, an associate rate of 431. We can measure at the firm level, we can measure gender and bring that in here too. But I'm also going to show you some comprehensive reports across diversity that can tell a better story from a comparative and performance measuring perspective as to how that compares across your firms. Activity across matters, so where the firm is spending their time, so you can break down the costs in the work that's being performed based upon the UTVMS coding to see really where more of your money is going. In this case here, almost half of the spend with Kirkland & Ellis is on case development. Race diversity based upon hours billed, gender diversity based on hours billed. These are all types of metrics that can be measured.
Can I ask you a question about that, Doug? So when you're looking at sort of the case phases there, like case development being half, are you just strictly looking at the UTBMS coding, or are you actually like analyzing the narratives? Because I know sometimes like our firms will just shove everything in like L110 and it all looks the same.
Yeah, that's a great point, Don, or a great question. So we are not currently, we are analyzing the narrative sometimes. So what we do, Don, is if we're receiving the data with a code, such as L110, we go with that. It's what, if that's what the firm is reporting to you. If for some reason we get activity that does not have a code on a line item, we then go to the narratives and we'll assign the task code based upon the narratives. And that's a combination of technology and human intervention. So we do basically some basic keyword searching and matching to assign a code automatically. If that fails based upon the narrative or the quality of the narrative or the specific wording, we go in as humans, we'll read the narrative and we'll assign a UTBMS code. But right now we do not have for example, very advanced AI that can do that better than the firms can, but that is a goal longer term as well. But that's a great question. So this is all firm level spend. Now, when you start to get into and metrics on the firm, where there's a lot of value with a tool like Sky Analytics in particular, is on our ability to benchmark against others and understanding how this compares to others. One of the ways that you can look at a firm with a tool like Sky is how your data compares to what others are spending for that same firm based on our database. So in this case here, when I pop down the filters, we have a toggle switch that goes between my data, all data, or all data excluding.
Oh, sorry, Don. Hello. If you're not muted, can you please mute? Doug, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Is there anyone from the ACC that's on the line that can mute Stefan, please? Thank you.
There we go. Awesome. All right, thank you. Appreciate that. I wasn't sure if you all could even catch me over that. So, so in this case here, what I'm going to show you is kind of with a tool like Sky, a trick on benchmarking. I can see here, based upon what I'm spending with Kirkland and Ellis, my partner rate is 673, my blended rate is 536, my associate rate is 431. I can actually switch to a view that's all data excluding me and update. And now I can actually understand what Kirkland and Ellis looks like to other Sky Analytics clients. The blended rate goes up from 536 to 801. The partner rate goes up to 949. The associate rate goes up to 616. What does that tell me? That tells me my rates with Kirkland and Ellis are much more favorable than what other clients are receiving at that point in time. And this is all based on the same points in time. So whatever time frame you're looking at, you obviously don't want to compare the rates that you're paying this year to the rate that someone else paid 4 years ago. That's not good. So we make sure that we're always, trying to do apples to apples comparisons with any type of benchmark or metrics. The more apples to apples you can get it, obviously, the better. Another, I think, key thing to think about with metrics and so on, some people are better with numbers, some people are better with pictures. And we always try to strike a balance between numeric and visualization of data. But there are neat reports that you can do quickly with a tool like this that allows you to, and I got to just minimize this over here. Oh, actually, I'm missing, well, I was going to show you a cool report, but it's actually missing from my selection here. So engineering must have changed something on my view. But where you can get kind of more of a financial overview without the images going on there. Timekeeper metrics, rates in particular, obviously rates are something that everyone has a keen interest on. The rate benchmarking capabilities of our tool are probably the #1 area of interest with Sky Analytics right now. And frankly, the #2 area of interest is diversity. But I just clicked on the timekeeper tab for Kirkland and Ellis. And now I'm looking at all of the timekeepers who performed work for me in the selected time frame, the rates that they're charging, and then a market rate comparison. And market rates, when you're looking at any type of market rate benchmark, again, you want to go as apples to apples as you can. So in this particular report that we're looking at, the market rate is based upon similar timekeepers, similar level of, or same timekeeper position. So partners compared to partners, associates to associates, same level of experience, same geographic location, and same size law firm. All of those factors get you more to an apples to apples comparison. And there are reports within our application that you can actually refine by practice area as well. This report is not, this is across all of Kirkland and Ellis, but you could refine it depending upon which report you were looking at. Now, similarly, we have the capability with a report like this to also look at all data excluding me. So in this case here, I know I use Ray Schrock. I pay $8.17 per hour. Market rate's $9.19 for similar timekeepers. I'm getting a pretty good deal. I can see that for all of my timekeepers. But I can switch to all data excluding me, click on update. Now I'm going to get a report that shows me what other people are paying for other timekeepers at Kirkland and Ellis. So this way, it gives you a view of a larger pool of data, a larger population. It allows you to understand better what Kirkland and Ellis traditionally charges and what maybe partners, associates, et cetera, even paralegals that you've never used, what those might cost you. And, you know, gives you kind of a broader view of Kirkland, not just limited to your own experience and your own timekeepers. I'm going to jump quickly to, and I know I'm going pretty quickly, but I want to jump around and show you a couple of other things. Comparative data and metrics at the firm level. Another important or commonly used feature within our tool within Sky Analytics, but it's great for evaluating firm performance and in particular, oftentimes used for panel firm evaluation. So I'm going to select 3 firms of this particular demo client. I'm going to add them to my selected firm list. I'm going to run a comparison. I just want to show you what this comparative report looks like in the types of metrics that are looked at. So I can see some quick facts about them: the size of the law firm, the location, office locations, and headquarter locations. But some other metrics on just our experience or your particular experience with the firm, the number of matters that they've worked on, the average fees charged. And this can be looked at for your spend or across the whole database. Average expenses they charge. If I look at this type of data for a particular practice area, that's going to tell me a lot for similar matters. Again, apples to apples across what you're doing or what these firms are doing for you or for others. Average matter cost, average matter duration. A rate analysis, that blended rate number, what does that look like across the firms? Partner rate, associate rate, paralegal rates. That's important as well. A lot of times with rate benchmarking, the paralegals get kind of left off the equation. People focus on partner and associates, but there are other positions within the law firm that may be of interest to you. This particular report focuses on partner, associate, and paralegal along with the blended rate. Comparative staffing analysis. How do each of these firms staff my matters? Well, I can see here, Allen and Overy, when I hover over my partner slice of the pie, about 28% of my spend is with partners. But when I go to Bradley Arendt, 68% of my spend is with partners and 59% for Mayer Brown. So you start to get a sense of their staffing practices. Again, if I'm looking at a particular practice area, that's going to give me some information about the efficiency of the firm. And you can also look at gender metrics and comparisons as well. I'm going to jump back. And in my last few minutes, I'm going to do a couple of things. I want to show within rate request management, just rate management in general. I'm going to dive into our rate request management, just show you what a rate card looks like with some comparative metrics on it. So in this case here, I drilled into Mayer Brown, and these are open rate requests for this demo client from their law firms. Contextual analytics at the point of making a decision about rate increases can be really informative. So in this case here, for example, this first time card or rate card, Eileen Andre has a market comp rate of 653. So that's for similar timekeepers. She's an associate in New York at Mayer Brown with 11 years experience. Currently at a rate of 360 per hour, looking to increase their rate by 425. You can then see now contextually, okay, I know this person is getting an 18% increase, but that increase is also 35% lower than market rate. So you have really all the information you need right there to make a good or well-informed decision about whether or not to accept or reject a rate increase or to modify it. So, so we have the capability within our tool to actually put workflow around these rate cards, which allow you to relatively efficiently, with contextual analytics, make decisions at the point of, or have all the information you need in front of you at the point of making a decision. And lastly, in my last 3 minutes, I wanted to talk about some of the diversity metrics that we're able to track, which have become such an important part of the equation for almost all of the clients that I work with at Sky Analytics. We've built out this capability significantly over the last few years because of client demand. And everyone is really looking at getting a better understanding. So we've gotten dashboards dedicated specifically or exclusively to diversity. So here are my top 10 firms based upon spend. What do they look like from a diversity perspective? So Kirkland & Ellis, only 11% of my spend from Kirkland & Ellis is diverse. Versus say, Schulte Roth, 64% of my spend is diverse. So you can start to get a sense of what that looks like. But we also, in addition to all this data visualization and various metrics we can report on a diversity perspective, we have more comprehensive reports across all of your spend. So this is a report that is summarizing all of your spend across all of your firms and separating out diverse hours and fees billed from non-diverse hours and fees billed, as well as the percentages for that. And then whether or not this firm, these firms are meeting your objectives. And that's what the yes or no means in these last two columns. So based on hours billed, are they meeting the threshold that I expect from my law firm for diverse hours billed, or fees billed? Are they meeting that threshold? You can set whatever threshold you want. I'm going to pop down some filters here. So in this case here, my diversity threshold is 35% or above. I expect at least 35% of my hours and or fees to come from diverse timekeepers. And then which demographics are you looking at? Gender. Do I want to look at male versus female? Race, LGBT, veteran, or disability? And you could combine those or look at them separately. But in this case here, we're combining them all and including all of those considerations. I just want to make sure I'm hitting a minimum of 35% across my firms. And in this case here, you can see that some are yes, some are no. We're also looking at firms that for this demo client, this is all of their firms. So it's including some firms that they do very little business with. So those are less important. And you can certainly, through our filtering capabilities, you can limit this to your top firms or whatever it might be. But in addition to getting this view in the last couple of seconds here, you can break it down by position as well. So is all of my diversity coming from associates or paralegals? What does it look like at the partner level? A report like this, which scrolls over to diverse versus non-diverse, allows you to see for each of your firms, for each of your position, how much of my, accidentally moved backwards, how much of my work hours or fees are coming from diverse versus non-diverse timekeepers.
And if I remember correctly, is that timekeeper level diversity data stuff that you've already collected, or do I need to feed that to you?
Yeah, it's a combination. So we gender, we generally collect when we create a new timekeeper in the application. So that's automatically part of our research process. Race, LGBTQ, disability, and veteran status is something that can either be fed to us by a client. If you've collected that data and you want to feed that to us, we'll load it in. Or if you haven't collected that data, we will actually go out and do outreach to your law firms on your behalf and collect it for you. So what we try to do is we try to take the administrative burden off of our clients of collecting the diversity data if they haven't already collected it. Then you also, Dawn, get the benefit of the data that's already been collected by other clients. So if you use Mary Jones and another Sky client uses Mary Jones, and that client has told us that Mary Jones is a racially diverse LGBTQ timekeeper, you get the benefit of that data. That's shared in the database at the timekeeper level. Okay.
That's great. Well, thanks for zipping through that. I know it was a pretty condensed time period, but I think you did a nice job. Does anybody have questions for Doug?
I have a question. This is Nikki. Hey, Doug. Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. So in terms of how you would get our data, is it like a periodic data dump? Do we integrate with the tool? How does that work?
Yep, that's a great question, Nikki. So typically, a new client will typically take in 2 years worth of historical data to get started. We can take in more data, and that's a data dump from your e-billing system, typically, unless we're collecting it directly from your firms. And we load in that 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, depending upon what the client preference is. But we recommend a minimum 2 baseline for trend reporting as well as internal benchmarking. And then from there, most of our clients update their data in monthly increments. We have some that update their data weekly, automatically. And the way that the data is typically fed to us is not a direct integration to your e-billing system, but we have automated the process somewhat with certain e-billing providers where, you know, for example, I know Onnit, for example, can automatically generate the report, but then it has to be sent to us, and then we can load it into the application. There's no direct interfaces today, though that may be available in the future, but usually it's run a report, download it to Excel or CSV, send it to us via FTP, we grab the file, we load it in.
Got it. Thank you. Very helpful.
Yep, you're welcome.
And if Doug, if people are interested in learning more or you know, getting in touch, or do you do pilots or things like that? Like how would people get started on this journey if they wanted to with you guys?
Yeah, we don't, you know, it's a great question regarding the pilots. We don't typically do pilots. We'll work with any prospect to figure out what works best from a model. Our standard agreement, our standard approach is a 2-year agreement. But we sometimes will put in, to be, you know, totally transparent with you, escape clauses from that 2-year agreement. But you know, any type of, we don't do like complimentary pilots typically, because what we found, frankly, is when you do a free pilot, the prospect generally doesn't use the application because they're not paying for it. There's not as much urgency to actually leverage it. So you say, okay, we'll give it to you for X number of months for, you know, at no charge or very little cost, and then nothing happens. But we can do shorter term contracts, and or, you know, we'll work with the client to make sure it's something that works for them.
Great. And if people are interested, should they just reach out directly to you, or what's the best?
Yeah, I'm the best. Yeah, I'm the best person to contact directly. So it's dventola@concilio.com. You know, anyone can reach out to me, and I'm always willing to take those type of inquiries.
Great. Well, again, thank you very much for being willing to join on such short notice. I think you gave us a lot to think about today, metrics wise, and we really appreciate you meeting with us today.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate being invited. So thank you all. I look forward to hearing from some of you anyways, but it's been good. I appreciate the offer, and thanks for letting me talk to you today.
Great. Yeah, take care.
All right, bye all.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you.
Bye.
So
I mean, I thought that was cool. Very cool. I haven't talked to anybody who, I've talked to people that have used Sky in the past, but I haven't talked to anyone who's using it right now. It looks very cool.
Yeah, I mean, this session has definitely given me a lot to think about. And Tina Jordan, actually, who just recently joined my team, she's on my right on my screen. I don't know where she is on yours, but you know, we've been talking a lot about, she's a kind of a Power BI expert, and we've been thinking about standing up some dashboards and metrics. But this gives me a lot to think about too, in the sense that people have gone down that path and maybe have found it lacking, and maybe these tools for whatever they cost are worth considering.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Data, it's interesting, but I'm very curious about the actions to take. I mean, I know I have a finite amount of priorities and things to focus on. I think you probably can use these in a very narrow way if you want to align with what the priorities are. But right, my boss is not going to say, sure, you can go buy a tool because you're really intrigued and you think it's awesome and really interesting. Well, okay, what are we going to do with it? And is it, you know, Raj puts up some big numbers when he says 3.5x ROI. That's real. So it definitely got me thinking and very, very curious.
Sophie, it looked like you maybe came off mute. Did you have?
Yeah, I guess my question is, where I'm the stage where we're using legal tracker. We have a lot of garbage in, garbage out at the moment. And so I think it's at the point where we know we need to do more with our data. And it's, do you invest in one headcount to kind of do that, or do you go with a tool? And I don't know if I can go straight to the tool, because there's still so much cleaning, organizing, that I'm afraid that if I go to a tool like that, which, you know, some of that is built in Legal Tracker, but it's just not user friendly, a lot will be coming back because there's still inconsistency and problem with our data integrity. So I was wondering, for those of you who might have gone through that path, if they had, you know, what should I prioritize? Getting a headcount was going to really drill into that, you know, do that data analysis, and then ultimately say, well, it's kind of not very efficient to do it, and we should just get a tool. But it's hard to justify an additional tool for analytics when, you know, Legal Tracker already has some, although we all know it's not great. So at least for those of you who have used Legal Tracker. So I was just wondering if there was any kind of past experience or lessons learned that might inform me a little bit in my thinking.
Diane, I saw you popped off mute. Were you going to respond to that?
Yeah, I was going to respond to that. You know, it's, Sophie, it is a very difficult decision, and you know, it's hard to make. But one of the things I will tell you, just from my background's technology and building applications and things like that. So, you know, sometimes it's, you know, the tool can help you find where you have your inconsistencies. So you can spend a lot of time preparing for some tool and preparing for something and spend a lot of money and stuff. And then, whereas sometimes the tools, and I you know, I'm not saying anything for either tool and in this case, but the tools you may find can help you do what you have to do in a much faster pace. You know, it's not going to be perfect when you first go out there, but if it helps you pinpoint those things, you can correct them faster. They can update their, you know, both of these tools, you know, we heard today, and most of these tools, you know, if you make changes and stuff and need things to be updated, they can do that to get better information. And, you know, it's trending, you know, the specifics of every time is not really the thing. It's all about the trending and thinking about that. And it can help you trend that you're getting better and better. Yeah. You know, this year we showed this and this, we had problems. The following year, you're going to see something. You know, I have found that, you know, people kind of, we want the perfect time to do things. And I remember my days in being in IT, you know, there's no perfect time, folks. I'm just going to tell you, there is never a perfect time to do these things. You need to do the analysis and figure out if it's worth it. But if that's where you're standing, and I'm happy to talk to you offline about that, Sophie. So feel free to contact me if you wish to have that conversation, because I realize it's after 3 and I'm being pinged. So I need to go. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that might be a good place to leave it. I mean, we could probably talk about this for 6 more hours. I feel like there's a lot. I have similar concerns. So yeah, I was thinking about our data and going like, geez, are we even ready for something like that or what, right?
Me too. Yeah, yeah.
But that's good life advice. They're probably if you're waiting for the right time, you may as well just get on with it. I guess that could go for a lot of different things. So.
That's what my husband, I think, said when we had children.
Exactly. That's right. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Nikki? That might be time to call it a day.
Yeah, I know we're over, and I don't, Don, you and I should connect and think about if we want to schedule like invite people for another maybe off session discussion or something to talk through some of this. That might be interesting.
I agree. I think there's a lot here to consider. So maybe that would be a worthwhile session if everybody agrees.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for everyone who stayed. Thanks for joining and participating.
Thank you. It was very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a great weekend. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.